The boy's a bummer. Bart Simpson misses a baseball catch and the entire town of Springfield decides this 10-year-old deserves psychological warfare as punishment. The entire town pelts him with beer, chases him down, and makes his existence so miserable that this kid climbs onto a water tower ready to end it all. When Bart's standing on that water tower about to jump, does Springfield have a moment of clarity? Does anyone think, hey, maybe we're being a bit harsh on a literal child over a baseball game? Nope. They encourage him. Someone literally yells, "Do a flip." Let that sink in for a second. A grown adult is telling a 10-year-old to do a flip while committing suicide. That's not dark comedy. That's just genuinely messed up. Bart jumps. He survives by landing in a bush and gets rescued by Dr. Hibbert. But even while recovering in the hospital, the town shows up outside chanting, "Bart sucks." Eventually, Marge has to shame them into apologizing, but you can't unsee what just happened. Critics absolutely destroyed this episode, and honestly, they were right. Frank Grimes' death. He's what happens when you work hard your entire life and the universe decides to give you the middle finger. This guy lived in an apartment above a bowling alley and below another bowling alley. Think about that living situation for a moment. He scraped by on nothing and did everything society tells you to do. Then he meets Homer Simpson, a man who stumbled into success through sheer dumb luck and the IQ of a potato. Homer has a beautiful family, a nice house, and somehow hasn't been fired despite being the worst nuclear power plant employee imaginable. Frank can't handle it. His entire worldview just shatters, so he has a complete mental breakdown in the middle of the power plant, starts acting exactly like Homer to prove a point, and then grabs live wires and electrocutes himself to death in front of everyone. At his funeral, Homer falls asleep and starts mumbling something stupid. The mourners awkwardly laugh as Grimes' coffin is being lowered into the ground. That's how this episode ends. A man dies because life is fundamentally unfair, and people laugh at his funeral. This episode has a 9.3 on IMDb, the highest rated Simpsons episode ever. Maude Flanders' death. Homer Simpson accidentally killed Ned Flanders' wife, and the show played it completely straight. They're at a stock car race where drivers are shooting free t-shirts into the crowd. Homer ducks at the last second to pick up a bobby pin off the ground. The shirts hit Maude Flanders and knock her off the stands to her death. That's it. No fake out. No, just kidding, she's fine. Maude is dead, and Homer is directly responsible. Ned completely falls apart. The most devoted Christian in Springfield loses his faith in God and refuses to even step foot in church anymore. There's this absolutely heartbreaking scene where he reaches for Maude's pillow in bed and realizes she's never coming back. This wasn't a Halloween episode where nothing counts. This was permanent. They killed off a main character over a t-shirt cannon. Hey, by the way, I'm posting pretty consistently here, so it would mean a lot if you could subscribe to the channel and drop a like for the algorithm. Homer's skeleton dream forgets to pick up Bart from soccer practice in a rainstorm for hours. While Homer's at home watching TV without a care in the world, he falls asleep and has a nightmare. In the dream, Homer finally remembers Bart and rushes to the soccer field, but it's too late. Bart's been waiting there so long that he's just a tiny skeleton. Now, just a child's skeleton sitting on a soccer field in the rain. Homer finds Bart's skeletal remains and screams at the sky, "How? Why? Where? When?" It's every parent's worst nightmare visualized, failing your child so catastrophically that it leads to their death. The image of Homer holding his son's skeleton while screaming in anguish is genuinely... It's a brief moment, but it's burned into the memory of everyone who saw it. Pure nightmare fuel with no punchline attached. The blunder years. Dead body trauma. Homer gets hypnotized at a dinner party and suddenly he's screaming uncontrollably. Something buried deep in his brain just got unlocked and it's not good. Turns out, Homer has repressed childhood trauma so severe he completely erased it from his memory. When he was 8 years old, he went swimming at an abandoned quarry and found a blocked pipe. Being a curious kid, he unblocked it. A rotting corpse washed through the pipe and plopped directly into his lap. Take a moment to imagine being 8 years old and having a decomposing human body slam into you while you're trying to swim. That's not the kind of thing you just shake off. The Simpsons casually dropped this into a regular episode and played it seriously. Homer has been walking around his entire adult life with this trauma buried so deep he didn't even know it existed. Banksy's sweatshop couch gag. In 2010, street artist Banksy created a couch gag, and Fox probably thought they were getting some cool artistic clout. What they actually got was Banksy using their own show to absolutely destroy them. The couch gag shows The Simpsons being animated in a nightmarish Asian sweatshop. Workers with bandages and skeleton masks, children painting animation cells while literally deteriorating from toxic chemical fumes, kittens being thrown into a wood chipper to create stuffing for Bart Simpson dolls. There's a chained panda being forced to work, a gaunt unicorn being used to punch holes in DVDs. This isn't funny, it's just bleak and depressing. Fox actually had to censor parts of it before airing after South Korean animators protested. Banksy essentially hijacked The Simpsons' biggest platform to criticize the entire animation industry's labor practices, and somehow they let him do it. It's 90 seconds of pure misery disguised as an opening sequence. Cape Fear, Sideshow Bob's murder plot. Sideshow Bob gets paroled from prison and immediately starts sending Bart Simpson death threats. Not vague threats, not "I'm gonna get you" playground stuff. Actual letters written in blood saying he's going to kill Bart. The Simpsons enter FBI witness relocation and move onto a houseboat at Terror Lake. Bob tracks them down because he's that dedicated. He sneaks onto the boat, ties up the entire family, and pulls out a machete with every intention of murdering a 10-year-old child in front of his parents. The only reason Bart survives is because he tricks Bob into performing the entire score of HMS Pinafore at full volume, which buys enough time for the Coast Guard to arrive. Yeah, it's a parody of Cape Fear. Yeah, there's humor. But watch this episode again. Bob genuinely wants Bart dead and came dangerously close to making it happen. That's not cartoon villain stuff. That's serial killer behavior. Bart sells his soul. He doesn't believe in souls, so he writes Bart Simpson's soul on a piece of paper and sells it to Milhouse for $5. It's a joke. He's proving souls aren't real and everyone's being ridiculous. Except then, weird things start happening. His dog and cat become terrified of him. Automatic doors won't open for him like the sensors can't detect his existence. Even cartoons stop being funny, which for a kid is basically losing the will to live. Then Bart has this nightmare where all his friends have souls represented as them paddling boats toward a bright paradise, and he's left behind struggling alone in dark water. He can't reach them. He doesn't have a soul to paddle with. The worst part? Lisa prays for the entire family's souls before bed every night, but when Bart asks her to pray for him too, she refuses. She prays for everyone except her own brother because in her mind, he doesn't have a soul anymore, so there's nothing to pray for. By the end, Bart is completely desperate until Lisa reveals she bought back his paper soul. It floats down from heaven and he grabs it like a drowning man grabbing a life preserver. That's existential dread wrapped in a cartoon about yellow people. The baby Noose. The Simpsons movie has a scene where an angry mob storms after the Simpson family. Standard Springfield mob stuff, torches, pitchforks, the usual chaos. And then the camera pans across the crowd and someone is holding up a tiny noose with a baby's pacifier tied to it. It's clearly intended for Maggie Simpson. It's on screen for maybe 2 seconds, but your brain immediately registers what you're seeing. Someone in Springfield sat down and custom-built execution equipment for an infant. They measured it, they tied a pacifier to it, they brought it to the mob specifically to hang a baby. The joy of section? The Simpson family joins a cult and the show doesn't play it for laughs nearly as much as you'd expect. The Movementarians use actual real-world cult manipulation tactics and it's uncomfortable to watch. Long propaganda films showing the same images over and over, sleep deprivation, nutrient deficiency through terrible food, constant chanting. They separate the family and force them to work in bean fields while systematically breaking down their personalities. This episode is directly based on Scientology, Heaven's Gate, and the People's Temple. You know, the cult that led to the Jamestown massacre. The writers did their homework and it shows. For most of the episode, they're not the Simpsons anymore. They're hollow-eyed cult members. Homer is completely under the leader's control. Marge is separated from her kids. Bart and Lisa are being brainwashed. The scariest part? The episode makes it clear how easy it is for normal, intelligent people to get sucked into these organizations. The cult didn't just target idiots, they targeted everyone. Bart's clown bed nightmare. Homer decides to build Bart a bed shaped like Krusty the Clown in a flashback episode. Sweet gesture in theory. Absolute nightmare fuel in execution because Homer has the carpentry skills of a blindfolded toddler. The bed looks horrifying. That night, Bart lies there and the clown bed comes to life in his imagination. It starts reciting a twisted nursery rhyme. If you should die before you wake, followed by an evil laugh that echoes through the room. Bart completely loses it. He can't sleep. He sits in the living room all night rocking back and forth, muttering to himself, "Can't sleep. Clown'll eat me. Can't sleep. Clown'll eat me." Like someone who just escaped a horror movie. This scene tapped into a fear so primal that millions of people instantly related to it. That line, "Can't sleep. Clown will eat me," became legendary because apparently we're all terrified of clowns deep down and nobody talks about it. Homer's blowfish, 24 hours to live. He goes to a sushi restaurant and orders fugu, Japanese blowfish. The expert chef isn't there that night, so an apprentice prepares it instead, which is exactly the worst-case scenario. Dr. Hibbert examines Homer and delivers the news. It's very likely he consumed lethal blowfish poison. He has 24 hours to live, 1 day left on Earth. And here's where the episode gets genuinely emotional. Homer doesn't waste time. He makes a bucket list. He listens to the entire Bible on tape with Marge by his side. He says goodbye to everyone he loves. Marge is actively preparing to become a widow. The kids are losing their father. Homer falls asleep at midnight fully expecting to die. But the next morning, Marge finds him still breathing. His drool is even still warm. Turns out he didn't actually have the poison after all. But for those 24 hours, the Simpsons family lived through losing Homer, and you could feel every second of it. Lisa accused of murder. She starts a babysitting business to prove she's mature and responsible. Her first major test is watching Bart and Maggie while Homer and Marge go out. Already you can see where this is going. While messing around, Bart accidentally knocks himself unconscious. He's not moving. He's not responding. And Lisa, the smartest kid in Springfield, makes the worst possible decision. Instead of calling 911, she panics and tries to hide it. She puts unconscious Bart into a wheelbarrow along with Maggie and attempts to wheel them to the hospital without anyone noticing. The wheelbarrow crashes and tumbles down a hill in full view of the entire neighborhood. Picture what the neighbors see. Lisa pushing her apparently dead brother in a wheelbarrow at night with her baby sister trapped in a cage. They immediately think Lisa murdered Bart and is planning to drown Maggie. Some people even think she's on drugs. The entire town turns on her. Lisa, the moral center of the entire show, is being accused of double child homicide because fear made her spiral into terrible decisions. It's a brutal look at how panic can turn good people into suspects. Bart and Lisa think they killed Martin, set up a prank on Martin Prince, standard sibling chaos, but the prank goes catastrophically wrong, and Martin falls off a cliff into dense fog below. They search everywhere. No body, no screams, no Martin. They're convinced they just killed their classmate, and the police are going to find out. Here's what makes this disturbing. They debate whether to confess or hide it. Lisa, the girl who once returned a stolen library book years late just to clear her conscience, suggests they keep their mouths shut to avoid prison time. They spend the entire episode drowning in guilt. Every knock on the door might be the police. Every siren might be coming for them. They're living in constant terror of getting caught for something they genuinely believe they did. Obviously, Martin's fine, but watching these two kids consider covering up a death is genuinely dark territory for a sitcom. Babysitter Bandit. The Simpsons hire a babysitter named Ms. Botts for date night. She seems perfectly sweet and trustworthy, which in Springfield should immediately raise red flags. Turns out she's the babysitter Bandit, a wanted criminal who's been robbing houses all over town while the parents are gone. Bart and Lisa figure it out when they see her face on the news and realize they're locked in the house with an actual felon. Ms. Botts doesn't mess around. She ties them up in chairs with duct tape, gags Bart so he can't scream, and proceeds to systematically rob the entire house while these kids sit there completely helpless watching her pack up their belongings. This isn't goofy cartoon danger. This is a genuine home invasion with children in real peril. Bart eventually escapes and knocks her out with a baseball bat, but for most of the episode it plays like a thriller. Makes you wonder how this almost became the series premiere. Stark raving dad. Homer wears a pink shirt to work because Bart's red hat got mixed in with the white laundry. That's it. That's the crime. A laundry accident. Mr. Burns sees the pink shirt and immediately assumes Homer must be either an anarchist or completely insane. So they give Homer a psychiatric evaluation, which he fails because Bart filled out all the answers thinking it was a joke. Based on nothing but a pink shirt and a botched test, Dr. Monroe and Mr. Burns commit Homer to a mental institution. He's locked up. Nobody believes he's sane because the system has already decided he isn't. It shows how terrifyingly easy it is to lose your freedom over something completely arbitrary. Eventually, Marge has to physically show up with Bart to prove Homer's not crazy. Also, this episode doesn't exist anymore. You can't watch it on any streaming platform. It was pulled in 2019 because of the Michael Jackson controversy. It's just gone from history now, which feels dystopian in its own way. The Mansion family, drowning joke. Homer throws a party on Mr. Burns' yacht in international waters. They get hijacked by pirates who tie everyone in a large fishing net and throw them overboard into the ocean. The net floats, which sounds like good news until you realize it's only floating because of the people trapped at the top. The people underneath, they're drowning, actively dying beneath the water's surface. Bart notices this and asks, "What about the people on the bottom?" Homer glances down and casually replies, "They're the greatest heroes of all." And then they just sail away. They don't call for help. They don't attempt a rescue. They literally watch people drown to keep themselves afloat and then leave them to die. It's played as a throwaway joke, but the implications are absolutely horrifying. Hank Scorpio's he's supposed to die. Homer gets a new job working for Hank Scorpio, who seems like the perfect boss. Friendly, supportive, gives great benefits. Minor detail, he's secretly a supervillain running a criminal organization. A secret agent named Mr. Bond tries to escape from the compound. Hank Scorpio doesn't even look up from his work when he orders, "Stop him! He's supposed to die!" Like murder is just another item on today's meeting agenda. Homer sees the guy running, tackles him trying to be a good employee, and the impact kills him. Homer just committed his first murder, and Scorpio cheerfully congratulates him. Nice work, Homer! Am I proud of you? Later at dinner, Homer mentions he tackled a loafer at work today. He killed a human being and barely even registers it as significant. The family doesn't react because in their world, Homer accidentally killing someone is just another Wednesday. The episode treats murder so casually it wraps back around to being disturbing. German car company using real people as crash test dummies. Lisa visits an auto show and wanders into a booth for Fourth Reich Motors, a German car company with some pretty blatant Nazi imagery that somehow nobody's questioning. She walks into their crash test demonstration room excited to learn about car safety. She watches them set up a crash test and then realizes something's very wrong. The crash test dummies aren't dummies. They're real human beings strapped into cars that are about to be deliberately crashed for safety data. Lisa screams. Marge immediately rushes in and shuts down the whole exhibit before anyone can report what they just saw. It's a 3-second joke, but the implication is crystal clear. This company is using human experimentation and nobody's stopping them. Just another day in Springfield where corporations casually commit atrocities and everyone just moves on. If you enjoyed this video, I'm going to be posting a lot here, so please subscribe, and thanks for watching.